They say some lakes were never meant to be fished. Lake Marrow was one of them. The locals in Harrow's Edge had whispered about that lake for generations, the way people talk about something they fear but can't quite ignore. They said its waters never froze, even in the dead of winter. They said no fish ever broke its surface, no birds ever skimmed above it, and that on certain nights, especially when the moon turned red, you could hear the lake whisper your name. Jake Mallory had heard all the stories, and he didn't believe a word of them. He was a fisherman through and through and through, a man who believed in what he could see and touch. Ghosts didn't put food on the table. Myths didn't pay rent. But a record-breaking catfish, rumored to be the size of a man and hiding in Marrow's depths, that was something worth catching. That was something that could put his name back on the map. Jake had been down on his luck for months. His truck barely ran. His last job at the docks ended after one too many late mornings. The woman he loved had packed up and left 2 years ago, taking his son with her. All he had left were his rods, his boat, and a stubborn streak that wouldn't quit. He told himself the catch would be the one to turn everything around. He waited until October, when the air bit cold and the fog hung low. That's when, according to rumor, the big fish came to the surface. He drove through the winding woods alone, headlights cutting through mist so thick it looked alive. His radio had died halfway up the road, leaving only the rhythmic hum of tires and the whisper of wind through the trees. When he reached the lake, it looked exactly as people described, silent, smooth, black as tar. No moonlight danced on the water, just one massive blood-red reflection where the moon itself hung low behind the clouds. The air smelled of wet earth and decay, like something old and forgotten. Jake parked by the ruined boathouse and slung his tackle box over his shoulder. His boots crunched on the frost-coated pier. The boards creaked under his weight, echoing into the emptiness. He set down his lantern, its weak glow spilling across the dock, and exhaled, watching his breath turn to mist. Perfect, he muttered, cracking his knuckles. Let's see what's so damn special about you. The first cast made a soft plunk as it broke the surface. The sound carried strangely far, bouncing back from the fog like a whisper. Jake shivered, pulled his jacket tight, and waited. Ooh. Minutes turned into hours. The night deepened. His whiskey flask grew lighter. Every so often he thought he heard something faint. The soft drip of water, or the crunch of footsteps in the woods. But when he turned around, there was nothing. Only mist, only silence. At one point, he caught his own reflection in the lake and startled. The water was so still it looked like a mirror, and his face, pale under the lantern light, looked almost dead. He laughed quietly to himself and shook his head. Getting jumpy, Jake. He poured another drink, eyes fixed on the rippling reflection, when suddenly the rod jerked in his hand. It wasn't just a bite, it was a yank. The line snapped tight, dragging the rod so hard it almost flew over the edge. Jake's body moved on instinct. He grabbed the handle, muscles tensing as the reel screamed, metal whining like a living thing. Holy yeah, that's it, he grunted, bracing his legs against the pier. You're mine now, the line pulled with impossible strength. The water churned violently for the first time that night, the surface breaking as if something enormous stirred beneath. Jake gritted his teeth, trying to reel it in, but the line only went tighter, until it felt like whatever was down there wasn't hooked to the line at all, but to him. The mist rolled closer, the air dropped 10 degrees in seconds, then he heard it. A voice, soft, barely there, right behind him. Jake, he froze. The sound was faint, like breath brushing against his ear. He spun around, lantern held high. Who's there? No one. The pier was empty, the fog thick and motionless, but the voice came again, fainter this time, almost sighing his name. Jake, his heart thudded. He turned back toward the lake and stopped breathing. The water was glowing. At first, he thought it was moonlight breaking through the clouds. But no, the moon was still hidden. The light came from below, a dull green shimmer rising up through the blackness. His last breath escaped in a stream of silver bubbles, and then silence. By dawn, Lake Marrow was still again. Mist curled over the water, soft and pale in the morning light. A fisherman found an old boat drifting near the shore, half filled with water. Inside was a torn fishing rod, a single boot, and a flask with the initials JM carved into the side. The sheriff called it a drowning. The town shook their heads and said it was bound to happen. Another fool who ignored the warnings. For weeks after, the lake stayed quiet. But on cold nights when the fog rolls heavy and the moon bleeds red through the trees, people still hear it. Standing at the end of the old pier, if you listen long enough, you'll hear a faint, ragged voice echoing from beneath the surface. Please help me. The locals say it's just the wind, or maybe the frogs, but no one goes down there to check. Not anymore, because if you listen too long, the water starts whispering your name. And when that happens, when you hear it calling, soft and sweet, you'll feel the faintest tug at your feet. Just a little pull, like a fish testing the line, and that's when you know it's too late, because once you cast your line into Lake Merrow, something always pulls back,